In this week's newscast, exclusive interview with Perth's very own jazz star, Adam Hall.
University students protested in the CBD, angry towards education cuts.
And Chihuahuas play dress-ups at the Cantonese Festival.
This is the evening news with Ivan Leung and Danielle Staniskov.
Good evening. Perth's very own world-renowned jazz musician Adam Hall will embark on an epic world music tour. In this week's exclusive interview, Adam spoke candidly about his upcoming tour and his views towards music. Adam Hall, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
You've been starting playing since 10 years old. Now, how do you discover your talent?
I didn't really discover it. I had some wonderful, wonderful teachers that gave me a lot of wonderful opportunities, and I also had a joyful experience with amazing parents who were really, really supportive.
What makes you like jazz music?
For me, jazz music is a music for parties, it's a music for parades, it's a music for picnics, it's a music for concert halls, it's a music for casual times, it's a music for sophisticated times, and to me, jazz music is all of those things.
Now, you've went around the world quite a few times. What are some of the most enjoying moments that you ever had?
In terms of the most joyful moments, I've had amazing moments with crowds of 10 people, and I've had amazing moments with crowds of 5,000, 6,000 people. To me, it's actually the energy that gets created from people that want to hear the music, and I want to play for them, and we have just a great time together.
Well, you're about to go on a world music tour. What do you expect?
I'm expecting, first off, we're going to play a massive festival, street festival in Berlin, so that'll be thousands and thousands of people. We get to play the Blue Note, which is a really iconic sort of jazz club, a blues club, and so that's going to be a smaller date. We get to play a performance in the Australasian in Cologne, which is out in the park and open air for people. We get to perform in Singapore, which is, smaller venues, but really intense and packed in.
Any message to your die-hard fans out there?
No, just thank you for allowing me to do what I do. It's, to me, without them, there is nothing. And so I really, really appreciate the fact that they keep coming, they keep buying tickets, they keep turning up and supporting. They keep jumping on the website or the Facebook page and writing to me, and I love it all. I love all the opportunities I get, and I never take any of them for granted.
Adam Hall, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Is all that I can give to you. Love is what just a game for two and love can make it take my heart.
University students in Perth expressed outrage this week when the Abbott government ministers came to town. Students protested against federal budget cuts towards education. Danielle Edwards was there.
University students hit the streets of Perth this week as part of a long-term campaign against the federal budget's education cuts. The protest was aimed at the Finance Minister, Mathis Cormann, and the federal government's move to allow universities to adjust their own fees. The Finance Minister has reportedly cancelled his luncheon due to the protesters down below chanting out their disagreements over the federal government's budget cuts to education.
Obviously we've got them on the run a bit. They aren't really confident to even try and sell their budget in public or have a little bit of opposition outside.
The education cuts are going to make it harder for poor people, ordinary people to go to university. It's also going to jump up the fees, so this is actually something that shouldn't happen. Australia's got plenty of resources to provide free education as we did in the past.
Organisers indicated there would be more protest events in the future and urged people to get involved and fight the budget. Danielle Edwards, WAMN News.
Do you know what it feels like to be homeless? 120 successful entrepreneurs and CEOs can certainly give you a perspective after their participation in this year's CEO Sleepout in the Cold. Harper has more.
This week, around 120 of WA's top business leaders spent a cold and rainy night at the Wacker Ground to raise funds for the homeless. They engaged in a moving seminar that included some of Perth's homeless people telling their emotional stories. Cardboard beds and sleeping bags were scattered around the ground, and after having some soup and a cup of coffee, several of the participants kicked a footy round to keep warm.
Temperatures are expected to reach as low as 10 degrees at the Wacker Ground. I've spoken with a number of participants in the Sleepout and they've all said it's worth it.
Well, this is my fifth time, so I guess I'm a bit of a veteran at it. It's probably not so cold tonight. There's a good turnout and we've raised a lot of money, so that's what it's all about. Cool, it'll be very cool.
much colder than last year, but we'll manage. I am sure the homeless suffers worse.
After you hear people's stories here, you have a pretty good idea of what they go through, and you have a better heart for the issue.
Vinnie's estimates that there are over 100,000 Australians without homes and have a goal to halve that number by 2020. The WA sector of the CEO Sleepout has raised over $1.2 million, an astonishing figure that will contribute to homelessness prevention programs. Ali Harper, WAMN News.
Months after Troy Buswell's car crash incident, the issue is still very much alive. Premier Colin Barnett stated that he is aware the risk cover has sought legal advice on whether or not to pursue $12,000 in recovery costs from Troy Buswell. The opposition stated that there is evidence that Mr Buswell was intoxicated at the time of the incident and taxpayers should not foot the bill.
To world news in Canada, Calgary commemorated the worst flooding in Alberta's modern history. The Premier of Alberta, Dave Hancock, Mayor of Calgary, Naheed Nenshi, and Aboriginal representatives attended the ceremony. Canadian correspondent Dustin reports.
Hundreds of Calgarians gathered to remember not only the natural disaster, but the love and support from families, rescue teams and ordinary citizens.
But even when the storm clouds were darkest, you pitched in and did what you could for family, friends, neighbours, and even for people you didn't know. We're Albertans after all.
We may not have been surprised, but we were truly humbled and profoundly grateful.
Jacqueline Mitchell gave birth to daughter Hannah on June 21st a year ago, when her house's basement was filled by muddy water and her husband was told to evacuate. It is a symbol of recovery.
I always called her my calm through the flood. She just was a miracle to us. We lost a lot, but she was so much more special and so much more significant than any of that stuff.
June 21st, 2014, however, was for celebration instead of commemoration.
What we're celebrating is those hands. We're celebrating who we are. We're celebrating what we do. We're celebrating the resiliency of our community, and I encourage every one of you to participate in Neighbour Day and to be with your neighbours tomorrow.
With the sunny sky and Stampede breakfast provided free of charge after the ceremony, Calgarians are looking forward to the Calgary Stampede, which starts in 2 weeks' time. Dustin WAM News.
The annual Chihuahua competition was held in Canning Vale. Proud dog lovers dressed their pets in costumes which included bee and Batman themes. The competition caused much excitement among dog owners, and event organisers were pleased with the outcome.
Yeah, some of the ones you saw, the dog who was the best beggar was fantastic. They've got lovely eyes on some, and then ears we test on others. And then we have running races for the young people with their dogs.
And here's Cahli Samata with this week's top stories in science.
Thanks, Ivan and Danielle. The WA government has backed its own shark killing program in a self-review released on Tuesday. The report praised the program while also admitting that shark attacks are too infrequent to have generated substantial data to measure any reduction in risk. Fisheries opposition spokesperson Dave Kelly said the review showed the policy was unpopular, disorganised, expensive and ineffective, and noted that it failed to catch a single white shark despite it being the species believed to be responsible for every fatal shark attack in WA in the last 10 years. No environmental groups were consulted for the review. Conservation groups were outraged this week by the government's decision to allow fracking in the Kimberley. Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, is a water-extensive, potentially hazardous technique to release gas resources from rocks by fracturing them. Although the technique is banned in several countries, WA Environmental Minister Albert Jacob has dismissed 48 appeals to allow Buru Energy to proceed with its large-scale fracking proposal without any environmental assessment from the EPA. CCWA Director Piers Verstegen said fracking is one of the most polluting activities on the planet, and the fact it is allowed to proceed with no assessment is worrying. He said the decision is failing to look after the interests of the public and the environment. In lighter news, an unlikely friendship has formed between Old Girl the Woylie and Boris the Slow Loris at Perth Zoo. Although both Woylies and Slow Lorises are usually solitary animals by nature, the Perth Zoo pair has been spotted sitting together and grooming each other in recent months. Old Girl was moved in with Boris when she was seen to be having difficulties getting along with other territorial Woylies, Quokkas and Potoroos. Keeper Christy Erickson has described the relationship as the most unusual and unique at the zoo, and says the friendship appears to have benefited Old Girl, who appears more calm and content. And that's science.
You're a legend, Cahli. And that's the program for the week. For the latest news, you can go to our website or follow us on social media.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you again next Sunday.
Good night.